Well, good morning and welcome to SouthPoint Church. Is anyone fired up to be here this morning? Hey, I want to say good morning to our Leonardtown campus. I want to say good morning to our Lusby campus. Let's wave to our Lusby campus. Hi, Lusby. We're so glad that you're here with us today. My name's Matt, and I'm part of the team. And we're kicking off a brand new series called What Happy Couples Know. Now, before we kind of dive in, there's two things I want to kind of say this morning. Here's the first one is, first I want to say thank you to Pastor Andy Stanley in NorthPoint Church. They actually came up with a title and some of the creative stuff and some of the content here. And so we kind of took it and made it our own, but I want to give credit to where credit is due. So I want to say thank you to them. And then second of all, I want to say something to kind of all of you that are here today. And I know ladies, specifically ladies, you're like, yes, finally, a relationship series. Like you have a pen and paper and you're fired up. And then all the guys are going, I just was starting to like it here. So guys, I want to talk just to the guys and the men for a second. Listen, I want to make sure that there's one thing clear this morning, that there is not going to be any shame or blame game as we go through this series. So you don't have to hide, you don't have to run. We're not going to man bash. But I want to give you a little example of what I hope this series is for. Now, I'm going to go back to my old days. My wife and I, when we first moved here into our county, we bought our very first house. And our very first house was really pretty, had lots of stuff around it, hedges and bushes and stuff. And I had never owned a home, and so I thought it looked all pretty. And then about halfway through our first summer, I realized that there was no one to take care of the yard but me. And so I went around and I looked at our yard, and I literally counted, we had over 70 bushes. 70 bushes. And I've never owned a hedge clipper. So I did something really stupid. The first thing I went down to the True Value, and I said, well, I don't want to spend a lot of money. So I got those little hand clippers, you know, those little things like that. And so I started, and I got to about bush number 3, and I said, I'm a moron. And so I threw those things away, and then I went back and I got this little Mickey Mouse hedge trimmer. And the problem is that we don't have an outside outlet, so I had to buy a 100-foot extension cord. And every time I had to hedge trim, I hated my little Mickey Mouse hedge trimmer because it was electric. And some of the bushes, they'd been there for a very long time, and they had big, thick branches. And my little clipper would go, and it would like stop. And then the cord would get stuck. I went through about 3 or 4 extension cords, and I cut them. And every time I had to go out and cut the hedges, it was miserable. But a couple years ago, I had an epiphany. And it happened in a still store. I was at a still store getting a weed eater. And off in the corner, something glowed bright. And there was a gas-powered manly hedge trimmer that would go through almost anything. And I didn't need a cord. And I said, oh, I don't care what it costs, except my soul. And I went and I bought this hedge trimmer. And I love hedging my trims because I don't need a cord. I don't run over it. I fill it with gas. It cuts everything. It is awesome. And you see, here's what I discovered, is that I just needed the right tool. So guys and gals, nowhere in this series are we designed to blame and shame anyone. What this series, What Happy Couples Know, is really about you and I having the right tools so that we can succeed in our marriage. Now, here's the thing. Over the next couple of weeks, we're going to be covering a couple of things. We're going to be covering marriage. We're going to be covering love. And we're going to be covering sex. And so we're going to give you a little bit of heads up notice because we do big people church and little people church back there. And so they don't just, do fun stuff. Matter of fact, they're learning about Jesus back there this Sunday. So we're going to cover those things. So listen, if you're here and you're dating, it's a great time to be here. If you're here and you're newlywed, it's a great time to be here. If you're here and you're a seasoned vet in marriage, it's great for you to be here. If you're here and you've been divorced and you're wondering if you'll ever get married again, it's a great time for you to be here. If you're here single, wondering what this is going to look like, it's a great time for you to be here. Because here's one thing that I know, that all of us, regardless of whether you have no faith, different faith, or you're a follower of Jesus, all of us have an invisible box. And all of us have this invisible box of hopes and dreams and desires. Now listen, when you first start off, like when you're young and you're just starting to date in high school and in college and maybe after college, maybe you don't know really what's in your box of hopes, dreams, and desires. But listen, as you get into serious dating, as you get into I'm engaged, you should know what's in your box of hopes, dreams, and desires. And if you're married, you should absolutely know what's in your box, hopes, dreams, and desires. And if you've been married, you should know what's in your spouse's invisible box of hopes, dreams, and desires. And oftentimes we run into problems because we don't know what's in our box or our spouse's box or our soon-to-be romantic other one, what's in their box. Because all of us have an invisible box of hopes, dreams, and desires. These are the things that when we get with someone, we dream about. Listen, that day when I find that special person, when we get married, when I get engaged, these things are going to come true. And it has to do with all these things that we deal with. And, maybe it's something like money. You have hopes, dreams, and desire when it comes to like money, right? Hey, gosh, Lee, I can't wait. We're going to have a double income, except we're going to save mine, right? We're going to be on double income. Maybe your hopes and dreams are, we'll have a single income and I'll be a stay-at-home mom, or I'll be a stay-at-home dad. Or maybe your dream and hope and desires, we'll just have so much money we can just both stay home. All right? That would be very boring, I promise you, right? When you get married and you're engaged and you begin to think about, like, someday we're going to live together and, what do we do? Who's going to do chores? And you have hopes and dreams and desires about how chores are going to get done. Listen, and just so you know, I already tried opening the windows and singing a song like the Disney princesses. No birds or squirrels came and cleaned my house. So we all have hopes and dreams about that. And we all have hopes, dreams, and desires. What, are we going to live in a townhouse? Are we going to live in a single-family house? Are we going to live in a duplex? Or are we going to buy? Are we going to rent? Are we going to lease? What kind of home are we going to live in? What kind of is that going to look like? Listen, I promise when I get married, I'm going to get to keep my sports car. Vroom, 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 and no, we're going to get a family van and minivan so we can have all of our kids in there. And so I'm hoping that you'll give up your sports car for this thing. And listen, I just want everyone to know, listen, don't put rims or fire on your minivan. You're just not cool anymore, okay? So you have some hopes and dreams of that. And, maybe you were a single child, or maybe you have 8 brothers or siblings. And so you probably have some hopes and dreams when it comes to kids and having babies. And maybe you had a girl and then you had another girl and you said, well, we're just going to keep going until we get a boy. And then you ended up with a basketball team. Right? And then you have some hopes and dreams about, like, listen, how are we going to spend our time? You have some hopes and dreams about, how you're going to spend your time, on Saturday mornings. It's always going to be us. We're going to sleep in and we're going to have breakfast together. And he's going, I can't wait for Saturday mornings because I get to golf with my friends. And then how am I going to spend the time? Well, you do your friends with your friends. No. We're going to have all of our time is going to be together because we're in love. And why wouldn't we always want to spend our time? And so you have some hopes and dream about how you're going to spend your time together, right? And then, like, the calendar. Like this is, really important when you should talk about this if you're engaged or you're married. Like, how are we going to spend, like, the holidays? And listen, I was very generous to my wife. I said, listen, I only want 3 holidays. I'll take Christmas, Easter, and Thanksgiving. And listen, you can have St. Patrick's Day. I'll give you Groundhog's Day and Halloween. I'll give you those. And so you'll have to figure out. And you said, I think we're going to go to my family. No, I think we're going to. So you have to figure out what this kind of the schedule, this calendar is going to look like. And so you have to figure that out. And then, hey, are we going to travel? Or no, we don't really need to travel. I mean, St. Mary's is so beautiful. Whoever really needs, I don't want to travel on the East Coast. I don't want to travel on the West Coast. No, I want to see the whole world. Do we really need to go that? And so we have some hopes and some dreams and desires. And Guys, we all have dreams about what she's going to wear to bed at night, we all have dreams, And she's thinking, he really doesn't care what I wear. He just wants me to be comfortable. And so we all have hopes and dreams and desires of what that may look like, right? And, when it comes to conflict resolution, we all have some hopes and dreams. In our family, we just yelled it out. And so we're going to yell it out when we get married and we'll just get all those feelings out. Well, no, we can't yell because that might hurt somebody's feelings. Well, in conflict resolution, we're just going to be honest because honesty is important. No. We could hurt someone's feelings. We just need to make sure that what we say is true. And, no. When it comes to conflict, my hopes and dreams are this, we'll never actually have any. And then, when it comes to conflict resolution, guys are somewhat confused because they go, I thought that's what sex was for. And then lastly, I couldn't come up with something really good, so I just came up with a heart pillow because, listen, here's what we have. All of us have hopes and dreams and desires of what it'll look like when we relate to each other. How are you going to treat me? Oh, he will never do this to me, or she'll never treat me this way. Oh, we're not going to be like my aunt and uncle, or oh, we're not going to be like my mom and dad. We're going to treat each other differently. Like, we have some hopes and dreams for how we're going to treat each other. And so we have these box of hopes and dreams and desires. And you know what? You know how this box gets made? How this box gets filled with hopes, dreams, and desires? This box of hopes, dreams, and desires, it gets filled by the things that we've seen, by the things that we've heard, and the things that we've experienced. Maybe you have an older brother or sister, and they have a great marriage, and so you've seen some things, and your box is made up of some of the things that you've seen in their marriage. Maybe you've heard about it. Maybe you read a book. Maybe you heard a speaker talk about their marriage and you said, oh, I heard about that. And those are kind of the hopes and dreams I have for my marriage. But if we're really honest, you know what makes up our box of hopes, dreams, and desires? Mostly it's our experiences. And sometimes it's the positive experiences, the things we experienced when we were younger in our family of origin. Oh, I want to recreate that. I want to make sure that our family, my hopes, dreams, and desires come from that. And then sometimes it's from our experiences that were bad and we go, oh, no, it'll never look like that. My hopes, dreams, and desires come from, I saw what they did and I'm not going to do that. Our family's going to be different. My life's going to be different. My marriage is going to be different. I'm going to make sure that we never do that. And so if we were really honest this morning, where our hopes, dreams, and desires come from are from the things that we've seen. They come from the things that we've heard. They come from the things that we have experienced, and we all have this. Now, here's the thing that we already know. This box, straight smack dab in the middle of this box is me, right? Because it's my hopes, it's my dreams, it's my desires. Right in the middle, this is all me, this is all mine. And at some point in our dating relationship, some point in our marriage, some point in our engagement, it could be a month into your marriage, a year into marriage, it could be you just got engaged. At some point in our relationship with our spouse or someone that we're in a romantic relationship, we take our box of hopes, dreams, and desires, and you know what we do? We pick them up and we carry them to a person and we go, here you go, make them happen. I mean, that's why I asked you to marry you. That's why I said yes to marrying you. That's why I dated you. That's why I picked you. I handed this box. You need to make these happen. You need to make these happen for me. I am expecting, I am hoping, I need you to come through for me. But here's the problem. When we hand someone, whether it's our spouse, a significant other, someone we're engaged to, someone we're dating, when we hand them our box of hopes, dreams, and wishes, it doesn't feel like hope, dreams, and wishes to them. You know what it feels like? A big old box of expectation. You see, our hopes, our dreams, our wishes feels like a big old box of expectations to the person that we hand them off to. And here's the first thing that happy couples know. It's kind of our opening truth of the series. We're going to put it up on the screen. And it goes like this. Happy couples know that expectations matter. Happy couples know that expectations matter because you and your spouse, or you or the one you're engaged to, or you and the one that you're dating, or the one that you hope to have, if you're waiting and hoping someday I'm going to meet someone, you need to understand whoever it is you're with, they're going to have a box of hope, dreams, and desires. But when they hand them to you, they are going to be expectations. And you know what we do? We take our box of hopes and our box of dreams and our box of desires and we walk up and we dump them into another person's lap. And those become expectations. And they no longer feel like hopes, dreams, and desires. You know what they feel like? They feel like a burden. Those hopes, dreams, and desires don't feel like hope, dreams, and desires. They feel like a weight. Those hopes, dreams, and desires don't feel like that. They feel like expectations. They feel like a responsibility. They don't feel like hope, dreams, and desires. No. They feel like a chore. No, they don't feel like hopes, dreams, and desires. They feel like you've raised the bar. They don't feel like hopes, desires. They feel like if I disappoint you, you'll leave. Because when you and I take our invisible box of hopes, dreams, and desires, and we dump them into the lap of another human being, you know what it does? It does something that we never expected. Matter of fact, it's kind of our opening point this morning. We're going to put it up. It's the second one. And the first point is, we're going to go one up. It's before that. Expecting creates a debt-debtor relationship. When you hand someone, you say, I expect this. This is why I married you. You need to come through. It creates a debt-debtor relationship. Listen, I'm going to give this to you. And the reason that I said yes, the reason that we're married, the reason I'm with you is because you're going to make this happen. So you owe me. You owe me this box. So make it happen. And it takes a romantic relationship into a debt-debtor relationship. Now, here's the thing, and you're probably thinking, whoa, we've only talked about one box, and you're right. And this is the truth. Everyone smiled. You're not going to like this, but this is going to be good. You ready? Okay, listen. There isn't just one box. I know you think your box is right, but there's more than one box. Listen, when you get in a relationship, when you're engaged, when you're dating, when you get married, there just isn't one box. There's two boxes. And so you hand each other your box and you create a debt-debtor relationship. And the problem when you have two boxes is those two boxes don't often match. Ask me how I know. Because I've been in this a long time, and rarely, if ever, do two people's boxes of hopes, wishes, and dreams and desires, do they actually match? And so you get together, and you know what happens when you have two people who owe each other something that they didn't know that they were going to get, and it gets dumped on them, and I have my box, and you have your box, and we try to exchange them? We get something that's called eyes collide. Eyes collide. My dreams, my hopes, my desires. Eyes collide. Your dreams, your desires, your hopes. And I want them to get filled, and you want them to get filled, and we live together, and all of a sudden these eyes collide. And you know what happens when eyes collide? There's 5 ways to deal with eyes collide. And the first way is we just leave. We see this all the time. If you look at statistics, this is why marriages fail at a very high rate in the first year. Because when you hand your box to your spouse goes, whoa, I didn't sign up for this. Whoa, I didn't know this is what you had in mind. Whoa, you've changed. No, you changed the ground. Like, this is expected of me. Or, I gave you my box and you're not coming through. Whoa. I thought this is why I said yes to you. This is why I'm with you. You owe me this. I gave you this box. You need to come through for me. And this isn't happening. And so, when eyes collide and we don't get what we want, we leave. And you know what we do when we leave? We take our box of hopes, dreams, and desires, and we take them right into the next relationship, waiting for the person that we're going to dump them on. And the second one is we win. Usually in a relationship, there's always one person who has a stronger personality. And that's not always the case. Sometimes people are evenly matched. But usually there's someone who has a little bit stronger personality, someone who's a little bit more bullheaded, someone who's a little bit more aggressive. And so we win. And whenever we win, there's 4 things that when we win that we always use. And we're going to put them up on here. And if you want a recipe, listen, come on, we're going to put them up here. They're coming up next, right? We convince, we coerce, we convict, we control. Listen, if you want a recipe for a destructive relationship, if you want a recipe for divorce, if you want a recipe for a failed relationship, it's right here. We can just convince. We just convince. Listen. My way is, can't you see my box is right? I mean, come on. One of the reasons you married me is because I'm smart. One of the reasons you liked me, one of the reasons you're with me is because you see me pretty well. And can't you just see my way is the right way? And if you were just more like, it would be better. And so listen, you just need to get on my train. I just need you to come along and you need to do what I need you to do. And so I'm going to convince you to do what I need you to do. Or we'll coerce. If you really loved me, don't you know I had problems? Don't you know I have this hurt or this pain? And so if you really loved me, if you knew about my pain and my hurt, I'll coerce you and then I'll win. Or we convict. Hey, listen, I don't want to put you down. But I mean, have you seen how your parents resolve conflict? Come on. They got to be wrong. We're not going down that train. I mean, come on. We got to do something differently. You know, I mean, oh my gosh, have you seen how they do chores in their household? Oh my gosh, no. Like, listen, do you see how it worked out for your parents? No. I mean, have you ever looked at your brother or sister-in-law and said, oh my gosh, look at this money. Look how they handle things. Oh my gosh, they're dead broke. No. Your box is wrong. Your box is wrong. So I'm going to convict you that we need to do what's in my box, or we'll control. We control through manipulation. We use anger. Or we use withholding. We'll withhold money, we'll withhold sex, we'll withhold affection. We'll withhold all kinds of things to manipulate. We'll do all these things to win. And if you want to have a failed marriage, this is the perfect recipe to have a destructive, dysfunctional relationship. And you know what? I'm guilty of all of these. Listen, usually in a relationship, when eyes collide and you have 2 different boxes, we want to win and we'll try to convince, coerce, and convict and control. But as one wise man said, his name is Dr. Hartley. He's a clinical psychologist. He says, when you have a winner and a loser, it's always a loss. That was free. We go back to the third thing that we do when eyes collide. We're going to go to the next slide here. We conform. You know what we do? We abandon ourselves to avoid conflict with the person that we're with. We say, listen, I'm going to give up, I'm going to become a different person than who I am because I need to concede that the person that I'm with won't love me for who I am. Listen, I'm going to become a whole different person to compensate for someone who's with me who won't love me who I am. And so I just give up. I give up my boundaries. You know, love always has healthy boundaries. But when we conform, we just go, you know what? For the sake of peace, I'm going to become someone different. And we give up who we are to appease someone. And the winner loves this. Except they will not respect you. And you lose yourself. And then the fourth one, there's actually 5 things here, but the fourth one is one we think is the right answer, but I want to kind of suggest, is the fourth one really a win? I mean, I think this is what most people aim for, and it works, and it'll get you by, but did we get married to get by? I mean, sometimes we look at people like maybe our parents or maybe someone we know who's been married for a long time, and they go, yeah, we made it through. I mean, we gritted and bared it, and we hated it, but we stuck together 55 years, and you go, I don't want to just grit and bear it. I want it to be good. I want it to work, and sometimes we think compromise is the way to do that, but when you think about compromise, what is compromise? Compromise is an IOU. It says, on the calendar, you know, you get Easter, I get Christmas, and then you know, we're never ever going to do it. And I'm going to guard my stuff, and you're going to guard your stuff, and we're going to keep an eye on other because I'm going to do my part, and you're going to do your part, and it's contractual. And I don't care if your dad has a sickness and is dying, and I mean, hopefully you would be willing to change that. But I mean, the reality is that we think compromise, where I create IOUs. Where you go, hey, this becomes a business transaction. I'll do if you do. We see compromise, and really what it does is it erodes love and it erodes intimacy. Listen, sex is best when it is intimate, and there's no intimacy when we compromise because there's no trust. Because we're always guarding ourselves, making sure we're getting our, hey, you do your 50%, I do my 50%, and if you don't do yours, I'm going to hold you accountable, and if I don't do mine, you're going to hold me accountable, and we're going to compromise, and it becomes a business deal. And listen, it's okay. I mean, if you can make it that way, that's better than any of the other ones. But I don't think it'll get you to where you want to go. Also, when we compromise, we'll make statements like this: I'm for my marriage. You've heard people, especially Christians, I'm committed to my marriage. I didn't know you married a marriage. Did you date a marriage? Do you date a relationship? Are you committed to a relationship? I mean, the reality is as much as I love my wife, I don't want her to be committed to our marriage. I want her to be committed to me. I mean, if you're just committed to marriage, you can plug anyone in there. But the reality is we want more than compromise. We want more than just being committed to marriage. We want to be committed to a person who's involved in that relationship. I want my spouse to be committed to me, not to some idea. So when eyes collide, we leave, we win, we conform, and we compromise. There's a fifth thing, and we're going to get to that next week because it needs a whole message on its own. But it leads me to our second observation today, and we're going to put up here. When eyes collide, we lose. When eyes collide, we lose. When we leave, when we win, when we conform, and when we compromise, we don't have the fullness of the marriage or the relationship that we hoped and dreamed for. And so when eyes collide, we lose. And you know what happy couples know to do when these boxes don't match? Do you know what happy couples know when your boxes are different? Do you know what happy couples know when eyes collide to do so they don't lose? Don't lose? Come back next week because we'll tell you then. Because the answer to that is so deep and so important that it needs a whole message to itself. But here's the thing. Here's the tricky part. We need to answer a more important question. It's an immediate question. And here's the question and the problem that we need to answer. What is it about giving this box that does the exact opposite of what I hoped would happen? See, I give my box hoping to have my hopes, dreams, and desires met. But when I give that box, it actually destroys the romance that I'm hoping for in my life. I mean, think about it, because what are expectations? Expectations mean that I'm owed. Remember we said that expecting creates a debt-debtor relationship? You see, when we hand our box to our spouse, when we hand our box to the fiance, when we hand our box to someone that we're dating, and we give them these expectations, it literally robs us of the romance and the love we were hoping to experience because it creates a debt-debtor relationship where they owe me. I'm going to give you a couple examples. Come on. Valentine's Day. Everyone smile. No one, don't elbow your spouse during this, okay? Just look straight forward, okay? Think about Valentine's, right? You say, listen, here's what I do. I expect, right? Because we're married and you love me, right? I expect you to buy me flowers. I expect you to give me chocolate. I expect you to give me a card. I expect you to do these things. And so if you expect those, when your spouse does them, how thankful are you? I mean, think about it. When someone makes a meal and that's what they're supposed to do, or that's what I expect them to do. Think about it when you put gas in the car. Well, that's just what guys do, or just what gals do. I mean, oh my gosh, you put gas in the car, or oh my gosh, you clean the kids' rooms, or you put the kids down. I mean, all of a sudden, isn't that what you're supposed to do? Isn't that what she's supposed to do? All of a sudden, expectation begins to rob us of love. You see, I owe you eliminates I love you. I mean, think about it. When someone owes you, how kind is it when you get what you're owed? When someone owes you, I mean, how beautiful of an act is it when they actually give it to you when it's owed? I mean, when you are given something you're owed, say I owed you $100 and I finally gave you that $100, how grateful were you for that? When you are given what you're owed, do you go, oh, I appreciate it so much, thank you? No. When you are owed and when you are expected and it's given, you're just at dead even. And if whatever you're given doesn't meet your expectation, then it's always below the bar. And in marriages, in engagements, and in relationships, in dating, if the expectation here, it'll rob you of love because you can never, ever actually meet the standard. And if you do, there's minimal appreciation, there's minimal gratitude, there's minimal beauty or kindness in the act, and you can never do. It's not a trick question. You can never do enough. Because you expect. Because I expect. Because we expect. And I owe you eliminates I love you. Because we can never meet the standard. You see, when you're owed something, it robs love of strength and beauty and kindness and gratitude and appreciation because you expect it. You're just getting what you're owed. And when you just get what you're owed, it robs the relationship of the romance and the love that you had dreamed and hoped for. Which leaves us with a really tough question this morning. What do we do with our box of hopes and dreams and wishes? And I want to ask a question. And it's a question that you already know the answer to, but you never really, and I never answer it really honestly because we hate the answer. Who is responsible for our box of hopes, dreams, and desires? Now, before you answer that question, this very week, I'm going to celebrate 24 years of marriage to my wife. We've known each other. Yeah, if you knew me, you'd be clapping. She's a saint, right? We've known each other for 32 years. And there were some things when we got married and we were dating that were in my box of hopes, dreams, and desires that have never come true, and I'm glad they never did because they were wrong hopes, dreams, and desires. And if I could have seen then what I could see now, I would have known that those were hopes, dreams, and desires I shouldn't have. And as I look over the last 32 years that we've known each other, and the last 24 years of marriage, and before that it was a couple years of dating and being engaged, as I look back at our hopes, dreams, and desires, listen, there's some things that I've attempted to accomplish for our hopes, dreams, and desires. Now listen, I'm going to be the first one to tell you, I'm not a very talented person, but I can stick on a bone like no one else. And I have a little bit of wit. But there are some hopes, dreams, and desires over the last 24 years that I've tried and I've chased and I've been unable to do. And so as I look at my box of hopes, dreams, and desires, and I go, listen, I couldn't see clearly that I wanted the right thing, and I had the inability to make some of those things happen. How in the world, if I'm unable to accomplish hopes, dreams, and desires, how in the world could I take this box and hand it to my spouse if I can't accomplish it? Which leads me to ask, who should be responsible for our box of hopes, dreams, and desires? And you know what? Here's what I love about Jesus. Jesus answers this question for us. Because here's what I discovered. No matter how great you are, no matter how great the person that you're married to or dating, they too will lack the ability to see, and they'll lack the ability to make it come through. Matter of fact, Jesus, when he talks about this, answers this in a unique way. He gets asked this question. We're going to put up, it's in the Gospel of Matthew. He's asked this question, teacher, which is the greatest commandment? He's saying, hey, listen, hey, if there's one thing that I had to do, hey, Jesus, if there's one thing that I had to do to make sure life worked the way it was supposed to, hey, Jesus, tell me the number one thing that I got to get right in life for life to work. And remember, Jesus is the only one to conquer hell and death. Anyone that would die on a cross is for you. So Jesus is for you. He died for you. He has the power to bring life. So when someone asks the question, hey, what should I do? We should probably listen to this one named Jesus. So we're going to listen to the response of Jesus. Jesus answers, he says, love the Lord your God with all your heart and with all your soul and with all your mind. This is the first and greatest commandment. And here's what Jesus says. Jesus says, listen. If you want to know the way to life, if you want to know the one thing to do, put God first. Put God first. But Jesus doesn't finish there because he wants to make sure people don't miss this. And then he says, and the second is like it. Love your neighbor as yourself. And all the law of the prophets hang on these two commandments. That's why at SouthPoint, Jesus is a big deal, is our number one value. And that's why everyone is loved and welcomed and is given dignity and respect, because we're supposed to love our neighbor as ourselves. But we got to put God first. Now here's where I'm going to say something really uncomfortable. And so I'm not saying this to be mean. I'm not saying this is judgmental. I'm saying this because I want you to succeed. I want us to succeed. So this is a buckle up moment. You just go to bing, right? Okay, listen. See, here's where we mess up. See, for many of us, we try to make our romantic relationship or our spouse God in our lives. We put our marriage or our romantic relationship first in our life. And when you and I put our romantic relationship or our spouse first in our life, it will never work, and it never has. And here's why it will never work, and here's why it'll never have. Because as good as you are and as good as your spouse are, neither of you are God. There's only one God, and God is trustworthy enough and has the vision and ability for this area to make them happen. And so Jesus tells us to put God first when it comes to our box of hopes, dreams, and desires. Because here's what happy couples know. We're going to put up on the screen to kind of conclude. My spouse isn't, okay, that was lame as anything, okay. My spouse isn't responsible for my joy or my happiness. At some point, here's what happy couples know. It's not their job to make me happy or to bring me joy. That responsibility is between me and God. And if I try to make my spouse God in life, it'll never, ever work. So what do we do with our box of hopes, dreams, and desires? Because we have them, and we should have them. Many of these things are good. And you have a box, and your spouse has a box, and what if they don't match? How do we work through that? We'll come back next Sunday, and we're going to talk about how we walk through that. But as I close, I want to give you two quick things. And here's the first one, and this is for safety, okay? So everyone look up here. Don't elbow your spouse, okay? Don't get in the car and take the long way home and try to talk about this. Don't go to the restaurant with the longest line. Don't go, oh, I know, I'm going to go to steakhouse because I know it has an hour wait, and they're going to be forced to talk about this with me. Because the messages are never about someone else. They're always about... So don't do that. Don't take the long way home. Don't try to, here's two questions I want you to ask of yourself. Do you know what's in your box? And then here's the second question. Who have you given your box to that has the vision and ability to actually accomplish it? Have you asked your spouse? Have you asked a relationship to do something that only God can do? Hope to see you next Sunday. Let me pray. Heavenly Father, thank you. Thank you that Jesus is a truth teller and that he tells us the very thing that we have to do first is not put a romantic relationship or sex or marriage first in our lives. But that, God, if we want life to work, we need to put you first. God, that is my hope and my prayer, is that as we would leave here today, that we wouldn't ignore our box of hope, dreams, and desires, but we would know who to actually give them to. Someone who is trustworthy enough to see, someone who's trustworthy enough that has the ability to accomplish them. God, help us when our eyes collide, not to pick things that harm our marriage or harm our relationships. God, help us to not just walk away and leave. Help us to not try to win. Help us to not conform or compromise. God, help us to love one another. God, I pray that you'd be working on our hearts to truly answer what is in our box of hopes, dreams, and desires. God, I pray that we'd come back next Sunday and we'd look at what Jesus has to say about how to walk that out when ours are different. Thank you for loving us. Thank you that no matter what we've done and no matter where we're at, there's nothing that the blood of Jesus can't forgive. And God, wherever we're at in our marriage, wherever we're at in our failures, wherever we're at in our brokenness, that there is power, the same power that rose Christ from the dead is available in our personal lives. It's available in our marriages. It's available so that, God, that you have a plan for our life. God, it's available so that we can have hopes, dreams, and desires that are good and that can come through. That, God, even if we're in a place today that isn't working, if we're in a place where we feel like there's no hope, there's hope found in a person named Jesus. And we look to you, God. Thank you that you love us. Thank you that there's grace and mercy found not in a religion or politics, but in a person named Jesus. May our hearts be open to you. In Jesus' name, amen.
If you're ready to take the next step in your spiritual journey or continue to support SouthPoint, you can connect to a small group, serve on a team, and give financially by clicking the box on the right. To watch other sermons from SouthPoint Church, click the playlist on the left. Click the logo to subscribe.